Well, you've had an exciting day already today, haven't you, out on the show floor?
Yeah, it's been good, and it's been really good this morning, walking in and seeing the Volkswagens there front and centre and having the buzz, and then obviously the ID7, all the details being launched today. It's been a very exciting morning for us, really good.
So I think you just hit your 2-year mark in your current position.
Yep.
And you lead a team across 3 markets in the North American region. And how is that going, and how does it compare to your previous responsibilities in the UK, the Middle East, and your home market in Australia? If you're wondering what his very exotic accent is, it's Australian.
It's the first time I've been called exotic, Tanya,
You're very
so
exotic.
I'll take it. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Look, it's obviously very different. From a Volkswagen perspective, Volkswagen has a very different saliency to what it has in other markets. So in the UK, for example, Volkswagen is the #1 selling brand. It's got 12% market share, give or take, whereas in the US we've got 2.5% market share. Brand awareness isn't the same. Same in the Middle East. So, go.
We need to be talking into the mics more.
Oh, sorry, I apologise.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Okay, good. You want to hear that exotic accent? Okay, so let me start again. So the brand is very different in all 4 markets. I think in Australia, in the Middle East, and here it's definitely more of a challenger brand. Whereas in the UK, it's the leading brand, and it's been a leading brand for a very long time. And from that perspective, it gives us different challenges and different opportunities, Tanya, on how we do business. But Volkswagen is still Volkswagen, and we need to make sure we keep the messaging and the core DNA of Volkswagen there. But how we go to market is very different, and that offers a lot of excitement and opportunity. But yeah, different, 4th continent with Volkswagen. Second OEM, and always a different experience, but I love it and think we work in probably the best industry there is. There's so much going on at the moment, and the opportunity to come to the US was too hard to say no. I promised my wife 1 move 10 years ago, and 4 moves later, here we are talking to you, Tanya. But I love it. I love living in the States. And then within this region, obviously I've got Mexico and Canada, which offers, again, so a lot more diversity. And that diversity is awesome, actually. It really puts a strain on travel and home time, but the ability to work in 3 very different markets is quite unique, and I'm pretty lucky.
It's the most exciting industry at the most exciting time. That's what I
Spot
like to tell
on,
people.
100%. And it's something that I fell into, and I never left school thinking about doing this for a job, and you sort of fall into the industry, and then you realise how exciting it is, and and how unique it is compared to many other industries. And the rapid change we're going through right now it should be energising to everybody in the room. It's a challenge, but it should be energising to all of us.
It's a good challenge,
Yep.
right? So you say on your LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn, by the way, that you are passionate about creating value for customers, partners, and stakeholders, and advancing the mission and vision of Volkswagen as a global leader in mobility and sustainability. So let's talk a little bit about that vision and mission, and how do you achieve those things, and are they in conflict with each other? I mean, mobility, sustainability, and a little bit.
I think for me personally, the way I try to do this, doesn't matter where I've worked, which OEM or which market, is we need to strive to add value in every interaction we're doing, and that value starts with the human connection. Be that the human connection the car has to you and how the car interacts with you. It's the human connection that we have with each other as teammates, and that's extremely important because value comes from every interaction you're having, and we should be striving for that in every single interaction. Every single thing that we do, I believe, should be focused on, am I adding value in this conversation? Am I adding value to this room today? Am I adding value when we create a car? So for example, we're heavily focused right now on creating cars for the North American market. We could have been accused of in the past bringing cars from Europe and sticking them into the US market, but the Atlas is a perfect example where we're fighting hard, and we fought hard and have a very successful car that is built for North America. And same with the Buzz. The Buzz was launched much earlier in Europe, and we made the tough decision to delay that to get a car that was built specifically for this market. Bigger car, more power, more space, more seats, because your success is important to adding value in that market. And these are the things that we're focused on, that I try to focus on, and try to make the Volkswagen, the brand, a value add in every interaction that we do, be that personal or be that through the product, is extremely important. That's how I try to do it. Don't know how good I am, but that's what we're focused on personally. And that's the vision of the brand, is to make Volkswagen more human. We are the name people brand. It's a people's car. It's a name, but is it really genuine unless you're really focused on that? And that's what I've tried to do everywhere I've gone, and really push the team to think about that in everything they try to execute, through media, through our creative, or through even our sales communications with our dealers as well, which is extremely important. The dealers are the face of our brand. We talk, when you go and meet someone at a barbecue, what do you do? I work at Volkswagen. Which dealership? No, not dealership, right? But that's important as well, because we have to be focused. The dealers are the face of our brand, not us. Yes, we make some nice ads, that's true, but the actual human interaction happens on a showroom floor or here at the auto show. That's what people see as Volkswagen.
You mentioned the Atlas, and I'm thinking back to the media drive that you had and the buzz that created, because it is bigger and you could fit 3 car seats in the back. And I was thinking, they talk about Americans and we need bigger cars because we have bigger butts, but I think we need bigger cars because we have more stuff and more kids. So that was something you guys were actually considerate of.
100%. When we bought the Tiguan from Europe, obviously it wasn't as successful as the 3-row. Then when we bought the Atlas, it was successful. Then we got some feedback on the interior and the size. The strength was the 3rd row. The width was a strength. So that was extremely important for us, as it's continuous learning, because we aren't a local OEM. We're not an American brand. And it will take time, and we are heading in the right direction. And one by one, over the next 2 or 3 years, you will see our products extremely focused on meeting the demands of the US consumer.
So 2024 has already been a very exciting year for you, starting with the amazing creative you've launched on the Super Bowl. So we're going to talk about it, but why don't we take a look at it, and then we'll talk about it. And I have the clicker, so let's see if I can make this work. Here we go.
Did you ever read about a frog who dreamed of being a king and then became one? Well, except for the names and a few other changes, if you talk about me, the story's the same one. I cried. Said I, and I am lost, and I can't even say why.
Punch Buggy Red.
I am myself. I am I cried.
I love that spot. I love how it ends in New York. New York 2024, that's where we're at. So that was 6 months in the making, I understand?
6 months in the making, but lots of debates for the last 2 years since I've been here. Obviously, being on the Super Bowl is extremely valuable, and through our partners at PhD, they can share with us all the stats on why it can work. But then you need to work extremely well with our super partners at Johannes Leonardo to make it work. And we debated this last year. Do we go on? But I think it's important for us is when you are on, you better be bloody good. And when you are on, you better be able to tell a story, because I think, and as you can tell from the accent, I'm not from around here, but I have been watching Super Bowl ads for a long time, and there's a fine line between just putting a celebrity in your product or a bit of slapstick. And we didn't want to do that. We worked really hard with Johannes Leonardo to make sure if we were on, we really delivered a message of what Volkswagen stood for and rekindled the love that Volkswagen customers once had or still have, or customers who have gone away from the brand, and how do we bring them back? And that was extremely important. Plus, it was 75 years. We're launching the Buzz this year. I think it's a nice wink to the past, but also a bridge to the future of where we're heading as an organisation and as a brand. So that all came together, and obviously we came up with a brief, and I think the other important part is to let the brilliant people at our agency, Johannes Leonardo, to do their thing and not get in their way. We pay them for a reason, and that we need to value their creative opinion. Like shopping with my kids sometimes, you go in there with a price and you come out with something else, but in the end, it was the right decision, and I'm super proud of the results have been really positive. Wolfsburg is happy, which is good, but obviously it's an expensive exercise, and we're very proud of the results. The feedback was phenomenal, much more than we expected, and it really tells the Volkswagen story. But Tanya, that's step one, right? Doing a Super Bowl ad is one part of the journey. I think from a marketing perspective and from a sales perspective, we need to now build on that momentum. Otherwise, it's going to flicker out to something that once existed that was pretty cool. But now we need to build campaigns around that, sales strategies around that, products around that, and make sure that bridge is heading somewhere. And a very successful step, and I'm super proud, but there's a stack of work to be done still. But good, and you're obviously very kind in your feedback as well, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, the 2-minute ad is even better. We saw the 60, which is what you showed on the Super Bowl. I don't know how you cut it down, frankly, because I find the 2-minute ad so compelling, the long form, and that must have been a process trying to figure out how to chop a whole minute off.
There was some debate, but again, we had to trust Johannes Leonardo to help us through that. And obviously finding the right balance between our past and the future was a massive debate, because in the 2-minute version, it's a lot more on the past, and it's a bit less balanced, let's say, but super important to the history of Volkswagen. 75 years ago, Ben Pon bought, this little car from Germany that no one knew about and everyone looked at awkwardly, and it's an American success story, right? And this is on the back of the US. The US is the land of opportunity, and that's what Volkswagen did 75 years ago. Ben Pon came out here with 2 cars. It actually didn't work for 5 years before it took off in a small way, and then it took off later. And that's so much in line with the American story, and big year in America as well, being an election year, and the story of success was super important. So that all weaved itself together, and obviously it's part of the fabric of American culture. You see Bart Simpson's on there with Lisa Simpson, you see Woodstock. There's a lot of stuff that we were part of, and it was, I can't stop talking about it enough, but I'm super proud, but a stack to do, Tanya.
Well, let's talk for a minute about auto shows. You actually debuted that spot at the Chicago Auto Show, which I was at, and we got to see the long form there. And you obviously have a presence here in New York, and you had one in LA as well. So why are auto shows still important, and how have they changed in the 10 years that you've been at VW?
Yeah.
Where are they going? Why are they going to stay important as we continue to introduce consumers to EVs and other technology?
Yeah, so I think they're definitely changed a lot. I think obviously the size of them has changed, is most significantly in 10 years, but they still have an important role to play, Tanya, super important. There will be a queue on Friday here that goes all the way down to the river, and if that's not a signal that there's still a place for them, then I don't know what is. Recently we've been at Chicago, like you said, and they had their best year ever in terms of, for a long time. I won't give you the exact date, but a very long time. People are coming in, and each show plays a different purpose between New York, LA, and here. And I think the ability to see a car online on a YouTube video is still very different to seeing a car up close. The ability to come here and test drive a car or see a car with no pressure to buy. The ability to see them back to back without having to get in your car and move somewhere else. So I think the early stuff and the facts and figures that you were getting at a show 10 years ago, you can get online now. A lot of it. But that's not the same as seeing the car, and that's why there's dealerships. That's why there's other brands building, display centres, because people want to see it. You can and feel it, and that's super important. And especially the transition to electric cars. I've got my wife in an electric car, and she won't ever get out of it because she's found her rhythm now, right? She's found her rhythm, and of charging the car every couple of days, does her 50 or 60 miles a day. When we go to New York, when we're coming up here, we plan where to stop, have a cup of coffee with the kids. It's not difficult once you're used to it. And now I think the ability to get bums in seats here, back to back with our competitors, which is great. It's important they get a different feel. They can then make a decision, and then we'd like to back ourselves when they do that drive back to back that we have an opportunity. So they still have a massive role to play, I think. It's changing from what it was, but definitely I still see in it that they'll still be here for years to come.
No Detroit Auto Show this year, though, which is kind of interesting. They're going back to January because we love having people come to Detroit in January and see the lovely weather that the rest of us get to experience for 3 months. So will you guys be there in January, do you think, or is it still too early to say?
Too early to say.
Okay,
But I might not be there. With a hairstyle like this and big ears, I get frostbite pretty quickly, so you won't catch me there. But no, I stay south in these months.
As a Detroiter, I have mixed feelings about the January show, but there's not a lot happening in Detroit in January. So I think from a consumer's perspective, I can see why they're going back.
And it worked historically, right, in January for a very long time.
Yeah, they moved because it got to be competitive with CES and the LA show, but auto shows have evolved. I mean, the media gets upset because we're not seeing as many reveals at the show. Well, you know what? We get to see reveals all year round in cool places, so you don't need an auto show to reveal a car, right? Right?
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I was agreeing. I was nodding. I was saying yes in my head, Tanya.
Well, speaking of technology, you introduced some pretty cool ideas at CES, which I just mentioned. Volkswagen is the first volume manufacturer that will offer ChatGPT as a standard feature. Starting with the second quarter of 2024, it will be an option for production vehicles in Europe, including the ID7, ID4, ID5, and ID3, all the electric vehicles, as well as the new Tiguan, Passat, and Golf vehicles. So is this something customers are saying they want maybe in Europe more than here? Is it going to happen in the US? Or?
So is it going to happen in the US? We are investigating. Obviously, it's happening in Europe. And do customers want it? I think right now, that's a good question. Right now, obviously AI, large language models, are playing a bigger role in our lives every day. And I think consumers want to have the latest technology available to them. But more to your first question about how we add value, we need to make sure that whatever we do here in the US, it adds value to the consumer's mobility journey. We spend a lot of time in the car, and we need to make sure that whatever we put or whatever technology is in there, there's a value add, because I don't think from an investment perspective, we're going to put stuff in there that won't be used. Otherwise, that could be better served on something else in the car. And that needs to be the primary focus. I think it's exciting. I think AI is exciting. I think, and where we're heading. And we are investigating, nothing to announce, but the key question for us is how can we add value to the mobility journey to our consumers and the market, and then that'll be the right decision for us in the US and in North America.
And people are getting more comfortable with technology. I mean, we talk to home speakers all day long and ask them questions. Now we get in the car and ask the car questions. So it's just normal, right?
It is, absolutely. I was driving on the 95 to Richmond with my son, and he's in the soccer team, and we're asking Siri questions while we're driving, or you're asking Alexa if you're in an Atlas questions. And because I'm driving, you don't want to look up, you don't be using your phone when you're driving, and it's so much easier now. And there's value there, for sure, 100%. And we need to find that right spot.
I just get annoyed when they say, I can't give you that answer now. You'll have to check later because it's too much information for, whatever. It's like, just tell me. It's like, how hard is it
just tell me
answer
the
my
score.
question?
Right. Did your basketball team win?
So you have been building the momentum for, for the VWID buzz the last few years, starting with South by Southwest in Austin, and then continuing to the amazing VW Bus Day last June. We're going to talk a little bit about that event, but let's show a video first to sort of set the stage.
All morning, we've been watching beautiful, classic Volkswagen buses pouring into the lot, over 200 buses and their owners. Love for the bus. I don't know how a vehicle can be humble and awesome at the same time, but this one pulls it off.
Our first annual International Volkswagen Bus Day is officially on.
It's great to be here at Huntington Beach for the global debut of the 3-row ID bus.
Today, we pass the torch to the next generation. The ID bus is the motor version of the microbus, reimagined for the electric future. Practical, sustainable, packaged in a fun way that is a classic Volkswagen.
Good day.
Oh my God, it was the best day.
Really good.
Yeah.
And these events, look, obviously we did this event on the back of the buzz, introducing the buzz to the US, but you know, I said this openly, we need to make Volkswagen more salient in this market, and we need to tap into what we're good at, and we need to tap into that and not pretend we're somebody else or another brand, and we can't. You need to be very genuine to your roots and your values, and these events happen all over the country on a very regular basis. This isn't just put on for the buzz launch. There are passionate Volkswagen enthusiasts, and we need to find a way to rekindle that passion. And that day really set the tone for what we delivered in the Super Bowl, where you had this rich history and this rich love for the brand that may have gone away with some consumers, or we may have been off their radar for whatever reason. And we need to bring that same passion back for the brand moving forward. And that was a perfect example of us building the bridge from our historical image and then building it to the future. And I think EVs are the way that we're going to build that bridge 100%. And ID7, but more specifically, the three-row buzz will make a massive difference for us. And we're super excited, but we need to make sure we nail it as well in our execution, and that's the key.
You had people lined up with their old buses to get into the parking lot. It was pretty incredible to see.
Right, and that, you know, and again, I know I'm biased because I work at Volkswagen, but that gives you goosebumps. When you're seeing customers trying to get in and stopping, people on the highway pulling over to go and have a look, that's the love of the brand that we need to tap into. And then people who had never had one still admire one or wanted one because they wanted to be a surfer or they wanted to be going to these concerts at Woodstock or wherever else. And we need to tap into that. And exciting day for us, really cool. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was good to see you there.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the buzz has the potential for attracting a lot of new customers to the brand. And like you said, maybe bringing some back. Can you talk about those different customer groups and how you're going to reach them in different ways? Because obviously, lots of different segments there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a unique car that will come with unique marketing and communication challenges as well, Tanya, because you're going to have buyers who want one because it looks cool, the design, it's different, they want to stand out. You're going to have people who are out there who want to buy that car because it's quite practical. It's got a lot of space. You can use it to take the kids to soccer, or you can go fishing. You can go potentially on a long journey with it. Whatever you want to do, pragmatism there, space, and it looks good. And then there's obviously, from a historical perspective, people who love the brand and want to be tapping into that as well. So I think for us, we need to find that right balance of how we position the car to tap into those different consumer groups. It's a unique car. It won't be the #1 selling car in our lineup. This is definitely more of a halo car for the brand, and we need to position it as a halo for the brand, and I think it will work. It was parked outside the hotel this morning, and the amount of people just walking past and taking a photo or smiling, or when I drove the car through DC, people were, you know, I thought I was good looking overnight, but actually the car they were smiling at and waving at, and it brings a smile to people's face, and that's what Volkswagen needs to do. We need to bring joy, and this car will bring joy to consumers in whichever way they see fit. But from a positioning perspective, I think it's, you know, you want to stand out. You're in this car, you want to be seen, and you really want to look cool, and that's what the car delivers, with a bit of pragmatism as well in terms of space. So, really good.
That sliding door, you know, I know people don't like minivans because of the stigma or whatever, but they're so practical, and this is like the coolest minivan. I know you don't want to call it a minivan, right, though? It's but it has a sliding door, and sliding doors are awesome, so.
Yeah, look, obviously we don't call it a minivan, right? But this car will work because it's not a minivan, or it's got the space and the pragmatism of, which made minivans very successful for a long time, but it actually looks good, and it stands out. And we're confident that this car will make a mark. It's doing it in Europe. Vans all over Europe, and people use them as their family cars, and that's part of their life. And I'm not suggesting that will happen in the US or in North America, but it will definitely play a part in the family household's mobility. So it could be one of 2 or 3 cars for sure.
So we mentioned the Atlas earlier. I know that was a really important launch for you. And it marked, I thought it was interesting from a marketing perspective because it marked the first time that you targeted the Hispanic market with the large SUV. And in fact, your campaign launch led with that creative from the community. Yep. So let's show a couple of the spots and then we can talk about them.
Muy lento, bro.
Muy lento, bro.
Muy lento, bro.
Volkswagen Atlas con un nuevo motor turbo.
I love how the dad gets in on the action there. So let's look at the other one. Oh, is there not another one? Maybe we've only got the one. Well, that's the best one anyway, so. What? Click?
Click.
Oh, there we go.
Fue Mateo. Mateo.
La vida de más chico no es justa. Todas mis cosas son de mi hermano o hermana. Hasta el perro tiene más lugar. Siempre soy el último.
¡Te vas atrás!
¡Wow! Quizás ser el último no está tan mal.
The back of that is pretty nice to sit in. You know, you guys have gotten much better at making
Yep.
backs
Yeah,
enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we need to stay focused on, because that's what we need, is to have cars that fit the needs of our consumers in the marketplace. But from a Hispanic perspective, obviously the Hispanic community is a big community in this market in the US, and they are the emerging majority, and that's how we define them. And when we work with the community, you know, I grew up in a house where English wasn't the first language, and I know when you communicate, even though I don't speak Greek at home anymore, even if I see something in Greek, my engagement levels, interest peak. And it's extremely important, if we're going to be a genuine car brand for the people, we need to make sure we are speaking to the Hispanic community. And we're not just creating an ad that's dubbed and put onto channels in Spanish. We need to make sure that we are genuinely building that relationship. But that's just one part of it. Making an ad, which is quite good, and if you've got a sibling, you can relate to that ad and telling that human story. Problem was I was the bully older brother, so doing it the other way. But anyway, the key thing for us is to build an ecosystem around that. So when you're in a dealership, is there someone who speaks Spanish? When they go online, do they find information in Spanish? When they're signing their contract, is it in Spanish? It's not just about making an ad. This is our first step with the community, who are a multi-award winning agency, and they've been very good. They've used their work and their experiences with Verizon on their learnings, and we need to tap into that. But very important part of our strategy is tapping into the Hispanic community. They have a great affinity with the Volkswagen brand. Volkswagen has a massive market share in Central and South America, and we need to tap into that for us to be successful. We need to tap into it not just by making ads, by having a whole ecosystem built around it. So it's one step. Again, my focus here about adding value. Adding value is more than just an ad. Adding value is everything.
And it's a cool ad for everybody to watch because it shows off the features of the vehicle, and those are important to all consumers. So in a clever way, it shows the cool features.
Absolutely, and that's part of our strategy. Is we need to be storytellers. We don't want to put Volkswagen, for it to stand out, we have to do something different to the rest, because we aren't a big market share with big media budgets. So we need to make sure that we are telling the human stories that happen in our lives and in our ads, and promote the car as well, obviously, and what role the car plays in our lives. And storytelling and the way we tell that story is extremely important to us, and we focus heavily on that with both JL and the community.
I think you said to me once that the VW marketing and the TV spots always have kind of a wink and a
Twinkle in the eye.
Twinkle, yes, there you go. So
that's our aim. And I think we have to. I think we've made some pretty cool ads in the past, from the Darth Vader ones, and that's the stuff that people remember. But it's also, at the time, showing off features of the car. So the product is still key, but it's the stories that you have in your car. It's the time we spend a lot of time with it. I know my kids and I spend more time talking in the car, or them ignoring me talking in the car, than they do at home, right? And they're stuck with me for a period of time, and it's normally me battering them with questions. But the car is family time. The car is, in the car, we are having conversations, and we are the closest we are to anybody in our family ever, I guess. You don't sit that close on the couch generally. My kids are normally hiding in their room doing what they're doing. So it's very important, but again, communication to the Hispanic community is key to our success, 100%.
So what else do you have in store for 2024? Any other creative launches coming down the pike you can tease out just a little bit?
From a product perspective, obviously ID Buzz, ID7 we've spoken about, facelift Jetta and Taos, and then obviously moving into next year, the Tiguan will get its own NAR or NAR, North American version, to the European one, which I'm sure you've seen. All extremely important. Our showroom will be refreshed. Copper America's coming up. Soccer's a big part of our diversity strategy. I think soccer, and again, maybe because it's my sport, offers the best opportunity to talk to a diverse America, and the sponsorship of the US team, Copa America being here, and a few more things that Rachel won't let me tell you today, Tanya. But there are some exciting times coming up for the brand, and we need to keep it exciting and keep moving forward, because as we saw earlier from the gentleman, there's advertising spend is going up, and you need to make sure that whatever share of voice you've got, you are absolutely nailing it.
You know, I had Rachel on stage in LA, and she did tell me about the Super Bowl ad. So I
Did
think
she?
we actually broke news on the LA Auto Show MediaPost stage. People tell me stuff. I don't know why. They just do that, and it's
I'll tell
it's
you
good.
stuff, but there's all these people listening. Look at them. They're all paying attention.
So I think we've got a few minutes for Q&A. Lisa has a microphone. You guys can raise your hands, and please say who you are and where you're from. And
Thanks, Lisa. Mike Aragon, Ad Media, was just on stage. Andrew, thank you for all the great insights. I love the approach to the human connection and the human component. That first ad that was shown really struck an emotional chord with me, so bravo and well done there. With regard to, and you mentioned Jetta just very quickly, it seems here in the US at least, there's been a maybe unofficial perception that the Jetta is more skewed heavily towards females. And would love to get your thoughts there. Is that an official kind of strategy? And if it's so, any plans for making the Jetta in men's?
Well, Mike, the first response is, my son just got his driver's license and I got him a Jetta, so don't tell him it's he's a big, muscly 16-year-old, so don't tell him that. No, the answer is no. Again, I've been here for 2 years and there's been no suggestion or discussion that this car is targeted to females over males. Not at all. I think two parts to that. Jetta is probably our most famous nameplate today, still. And there's a reason for that, because it was very much the car of the affordable car, the entry to the brand, and many young people bought that car as their first or their second car. I've never seen stats that say it's more female oriented in purchasing, to be honest with you. I don't think that's the case at all, but I'll go back and double check. The positioning of the car is the entry to the brand, and we need that entry point to the brand, Mike. And every brand needs an entry point to their brand, an introduction to try and keep them in the family. What's happened in the last couple of years, mainly due to semiconductor constraints, you saw the market, small cars weren't being built. So it's sort of come off the radar. Now production's ramped up. I think we're already double last year's volume, and there's still more production capacity. So the campaign you'll see now that we just created is not targeted at male or female. It's targeted on safety and buying an affordable car that's safe. And what we are doing is targeting someone, hey, here's an affordable brand new car that's safe to drive and renowned for young people in the US. So that's what we're doing, not gender-based, more affordability and safety-based, and that's our focus point on Jetta. And my son...
It worked for me when I was just getting us started. I had a Jetta.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm Dave Edwards from R3. Great job up here. It was great also the transparency, or at least that you mentioned both your agencies, PhD and Johannes Leonardo. The spots are great. So the question I have for you is, if you could fix one thing about VW marketing here in the US, what would it be and why?
Depends on how I fix. You know what I'd love to stack more cash, Dave, so I can really ramp up the media spend with PhD, who are also excellent partners. I think for me, coming to the US and being in other markets, Dave, the first question I ask is, what do we stand for as a brand? And I think we need to find that positioning and stick to it. We've used campaigns like Drivers Wanted in the past, or whatever we've used at Chops and Changes. I think the key to marketing, I'm not an expert, this is my opinion, is consistency. And we need to be brave and be consistent and stick with those human stories moving forward. And that's the key to any brand, is consistency in messaging, consistency in how you deliver that messaging. And it's about the stories we tell, the human stories we tell in our cars. And that's my job. It's not a wish on anybody else. I don't hope. Hope is for someone else. I have to plan to deliver consistency. And consistency comes with strong partnerships and consistent leadership in the organisation. So I've been around for 2 years. There's been 5 of me apparently in the last 10. I hope, I've been with the brand for 10 years, 4 different markets. I'd like to think I'm pretty resilient, as long as my wife allows me to stay. We are planning on staying longer with the kids. So that's key. And I think, again, I like to look in the mirror and ask. I don't want to talk about asking other people for stuff. It's about what I can do. And I need to deliver consistency through the people that lead the brand with Rachel. Rachel, I think, is one of many CMOs where we had. Rachel Zaluzak is our first internal CMO we appointed in 9. Not because she was a marketing expert, because she was with the brand for 20 years, is with the brand for 20 years, because she understands the culture of the organisation, she understands the mechanics of the organisation, she understands our dealers, she ran customer care, and appointing someone internal who understands the brands and can build a relationship with our agencies and convey that. That's why I said earlier, our job isn't to create ads or where to place it. That's what we pay PhD, community and JL to do. Our job is to give them what our vision of the brand is and then work with them to deliver that. And that's key for the way I see it. No problem, Dave.
I think we have time for one more.
Hi, Mr. Savvas. My name's Edgar Tappan with Volta Charging.
Andrew.
Oh,
Andrew. Mr. Savvas. That's my dad, mate. That's my grandfather.
So a 2-part question around EVs. As more OEMs launch their EV lineups here in the US, how does Volkswagen approach standing out? And number 2, what needs to happen in the US market for EVs to penetrate more DMAs, more regions outside of the West Coast?
Yeah. Good question. What does Volkswagen need to do? We need to deliver products that meet the market from an EV perspective. Doesn't matter, even from an ICE perspective or a hybrid perspective. Our job in one of my other hats in product strategy and product marketing is to make sure that those cars are what Americans want, or Canadians or Mexicans. That's step one. There is a lot of competition in the electric space, a lot of cars being launched, and you'll see many cars upstairs today. And the market isn't growing as fast as we expected. That's fair to say. It's well publicised, and you saw some updates from the EPA 2 days ago, where in the end goal is still the same, but it's how we get there changes slightly. I think for us is to make sure that I don't think necessarily that you need to find the car that really meets the needs in terms of design and style. Which is one part of it, but the other part of it is momentum building, because I think many Americans who have taken EVs up enjoy driving an EV. And there's still a bit of distrust on range, anxiety, there's charging, and I think from what I've gathered in the research I've seen, 75% of people who buy an EV are very happy and will buy another EV again. I think like anything we do is momentum will build and that will come in time. We cannot rush people. You cannot tell people to buy an iPhone or a Volkswagen or whatever. They have to see their neighbour driving one. They have to trust their friend who's got one and get feedback at the barbecue. I think, again, my opinion, not very well educated as some in this room on this topic, but I think people trust their friends and more than they trust us as organisations, whatever we do. And I got an iPhone. I don't know why I got an iPhone, but everyone else got an iPhone, so I better get an iPhone too so I fit in, right? And that's what you're seeing with some brands today in many industries. And same with EVs. When that momentum, people go from 8% today, the EV share of the market's about 8% today, if I'm not wrong. That goes to 9%. Then momentum will start building. Because it is an easy car to own, an electric car. Especially if you've got your own charger at home or you've got access to charging at work, it's not a hard car. Once infrastructure gets built around that ownership becomes even easier. Every day I leave home, my car's full of battery. It's full. I'm not going to drive 300 miles, but it's there in case I need it. And it won't be quick. It won't be as quick as we hoped. Pricing's going to be an issue as well, but you're seeing some big discounts in the market right now to try and push cars through because of legislation or whatever other reason there is, depending on the OEM. but it will come with time. I have no doubt it will come, but it won't come. But we need each other to help each other get there. We cannot force it down the consumer's throat, but it is the right thing to do and it's going to get there. But again, making sure you've got the right product as well is key.
Andrew, thank you so much for being here today. It was wonderful.
Thanks.